It's too late for me now. Writing these blog posts is the only thing that still makes me feel human. These last 2 entries will probably be the last humanly thing that I do. So let's continue. After he told me I was Artemis, I smiled at him and asked, "How could I possibly be Artemis? She's a statue." Lucas looks at me very seriously and tells me, "She's much more than that. She is our goddess. She controls our entire existence. You are the chosen one, the one who will set us on the path to change the world." I just stare at him. I'm at a total loss for words. It's taking everything I have not to bust out laughing right then and there. We start to drive back and I think to myself, well, I guess I'll find out soon enough what he's talking about. I have an idea about what's going on with me, why everyone keeps telling me that I'm changing. But it's just so unbelievable that until it actually happens, I can't even believe it myself. As I start to doze off, I think about Kate, Tyler, and Michaela. I sat up and rolled down the window, forcing myself to stay awake. I haven't been sleeping too well lately. Every time I close my eyes, I'm haunted with horrible memories of all of the bad things that I've done. When we make it back to the woods to meet up with the others, I see Apollo and Dakota talking. Dakota looks mad and she's yelling at him. "No, it's not a good idea. You need to listen to me. We shouldn't split up." Then he says something to her and she starts to storm off, but he grabs her by the arm. That must have made her really angry because the next thing I know, her teeth sink into his forearm. He loosens his grip on her and this time she does storm away. Lucas asks me to help him pack up the car, and 15 minutes later, when we are finished, Apollo approaches us. I notice that the spot on his arm where he'd been bitten was already healing. He tells Lucas to go ahead and get on the road. "I thought we were all leaving together," he questions. Apollo replies,
"I think it'd be a better idea if we split up. Some of us are going to take cars and the rest are going by bus. Me and Dakota are going to ride on my Harley. We'll be right behind you."
Salem was a 6-hour drive and we needed to make it there by nightfall. So Lucas and I headed to the car. When we started to drive through town, I asked him, "Do you think we should be splitting up?" "No, but until tonight, Apollo is the one who's in charge of the pack. After the ceremony, you will be in charge. But until then, he makes the decisions, and we all know better than to challenge him." I think to myself, not Dakota. She was obviously challenging him back there in the woods. I was driving this time, that way Lucas had a chance to get some sleep. After driving for a few hours, we arrive in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I pull into a gas station to fill up the tank and use the bathroom. I wake up Lucas to see if he needs to use the restroom as well. As I walk inside to pay, I notice a group of guys standing outside, loitering near the door. They don't say anything to me on my way into the gas station, but on my way back out, they grab the door before I have a chance to and hold it open for me. "Thanks," I mumble as I stroll towards the car. I don't see Lucas there waiting, so I assume he must still be in the bathroom. When I begin to pump the gas, one of the men approaches the car and asks, "You aren't from around here, huh?" That's all he had the chance to say, because that's when Lucas came rushing out of the bathroom and over to us. He grabbed the man by his jacket collar and shoved him up against the car. "What in the hell are you doing over here bothering her?" he yells. "Lucas, he wasn't bothering me," I say. But by the time Lucas releases the man from his grasp, it's too late. His friends are already on their way over to see what all of the ruckus is about. Just as I finish pumping the gas, I glance at the TV in the pump and a news station just so happens to be on. Filling up the entire screen are 3 faces with the words "Wanted for Murder" above them. One of me, one of Lucas, and one of Apollo. They are images from a police car dash cam. The 3 of us are covered in blood, and the images were from right after I'd killed Michaela and Lucas and Apollo had killed those 2 police officers at the church. Then a photo of Dakota appeared, but she was only wanted for questioning by the police. I place the pump back and tell Lucas we have to go. But he doesn't hear me. He's too busy arguing with the men who have now made their way over. So I start to make my way around to the other side of the car and stand right in front of him. One of the men says, "You gonna let your girlfriend fight for you, or you gonna fight like a man?" Lucas wraps his arm around my waist and says, "Emma, get in the car now." As I'm on my way back to the driver's side, one of the men runs his filthy, grimy hand through my hair and says, "You sure are a pretty one." Who in the hell do these people think they are? We were minding our own business, just passing through. Why couldn't they just leave us alone? I couldn't contain myself any longer. I jumped on the man, tackling him to the ground. Then I slashed viciously at his face and neck with my now jagged, razor-sharp claws until he was no longer breathing. After I'd attacked the man, the others backed off, screaming, "What the hell? What is she doing? Call the cops!" There was blood everywhere. I licked my lips and Lucas looked at me, shaking his head, warning me not to. But my lust for blood was so overwhelming. It was taking over. It was all I could think about anymore. Lucas walked over and had to pull me off of the man because I'd already sank my teeth into his chest and started to feast on him. He hopped into the driver's seat this time, and as we're driving away, I can hear sirens in the distance. I can tell Lucas is clearly mad when he pounds his fist on the steering wheel and yells, "We have to be more careful from now on. The police are looking for us." "You're the one who brought attention to us in the first place. Why'd you grab that man back there? He wasn't even bothering me," I screamed back at him. We both got quiet, and then a few minutes later, Lucas apologized. We end up stopping an hour later at a mini-mart because I never got to use the restroom back at the gas station. After we pull into the parking lot, I spot a police cruiser. It's empty, but I can see inside the store, and the officer is standing at the counter talking to the clerk. I tell Lucas, if we pull away now, he may think it's suspicious and follow us. He agreed and said that he would go inside and get the bathroom key since my clothes were covered in blood. Just as he was going in, the officer was coming out. Lucas held the door for him, and I thought everything was fine until I saw the cop turn and do a double take of Lucas. I immediately think he must have recognized him. The cop walks to his car and gets inside, but he just sits there, and once I see him pick up the radio and start talking, I know we're in trouble. I beep the horn to get Lucas's attention. He turns and glances at me when he hears it. Then the cop steps back out of his car and places his hand on his gun just as Lucas is making his way outside. When he sees Lucas, he pulls the gun from his holster and points it at him. My heart begins to race, and I can feel my anger going into overdrive. I get out of the car, slam the door, and begin to approach the two of them. "Stay back, miss," the officer yells. "This man is dangerous. He killed 2 police officers." I get ready to pounce and then remember what Lucas just told me about us being more careful. So instead I reach into my purse and remove my taser. With the cop's back still turned, I aimed it at him and pressed the trigger. The cop began to groan and his gun dropped from his hands when he collapsed to the ground. I yell at Lucas to grab it, and then we both race back to the car before the cop can regain its composure. We decide that it'd be safest if we took back roads the rest of the way to Salem. It'll take longer, but what other choice did we have? It takes us an extra 2 hours to get there. When we arrive, Lucas parks the car and then we hike the rest of the way through the woods. "Are we almost there? I'm so hungry," I complain. He assured me that we were very close. Soon after, I began to smell that familiar oaky smoke smell, affirming that we were almost there. I was shocked when we finally made it to a clearing. It looked like a long-forgotten place. There were abandoned cottages scattered throughout the woods. And there were even more people than before. As soon as they saw me, they all dropped to their knees and began to praise me, chanting the same prayer as before. There was another statue of Artemis, but this one was a stone sarcophagus and it stood at least 6 feet tall. Artemis had the same exact features painted on just like before, but this time her arms were crossed. She looked pretty intimidating and scary. Lucas held my hand, and when he guided me toward it, I yanked it away, asking, "What are you doing? I'm not going in there." Lucas reveals to me, "You have to. That's the only way to complete the transformation." "It's okay. You don't have to yet. Let's go get something to eat." He leads me to a nearby cottage. It's not very big, but there is a table inside with a buffet of food. I'm so grateful. It seems like lately I'm constantly hungry no matter what I eat. Human food or humans? While I'm making a plate, Lucas walks over to the kitchen counter where there are various bottles of booze. He brings me a cup, and after taking a sip, I realize it's rum and spit it back out. I smile and tell him, "I don't like this. Can you bring me something else, please?" He agrees, so I hand him the cup and tell him I'll take vodka or tequila. Then I head back outside with the others. I find an empty seat near the fire and sit down on a stump. Lucas finds me a few minutes later. This time he hands me a cup of tequila. I take a swig and it tastes a little funny, but I assume it's because it doesn't pair well with what I'm eating. I finish my food and vaguely remember Lucas talking, saying something about Artemis. Then everything went black. I wake up surrounded by stone and darkness. I see the tiniest bit of light coming through a slit, so I lean forward and peek out. I realize that I am inside of the sarcophagus, inside of Artemis. Through the slit, I can see Lucas and the others kneeling again and chanting very loudly. So loudly that it's causing a ringing sound in my ears. My head starts to pound and I feel like I'm spinning. I repeatedly strike the stone, screaming for someone to let me out, but no one is listening. They are all in their own world. I think about that night that I went to the bar with Lucas. If we'd never gone, then none of this would be happening. I would still be living my life, the life that I chose, not the life that's been chosen for me. Kate would still be alive, and so would that cop, Tyler, and Michaela. Even that jerk at the gas station, he would still be alive too.
Emma, you are chosen. We are chosen. We are one. We will rule.
I hear Artemis calling to me. She keeps repeating it over and over again. In one ear I hear Artemis, and in my other I hear the chanting. My head is filled with voices. After what feels like an eternity, all of a sudden I hear a loud crack of thunder and the sarcophagus starts to shake. My head bangs against the sides, making me feel like it's about to explode. I manage to peek through the slit again just as lightning strikes the sarcophagus. My skin starts to burn so badly, it feels like it's made of fire. I start tearing at it, trying to extinguish the flames. I'm now screaming in agonizing pain, and through the small sliver of light shining into the tomb, I can see that it's covered in my blood. I go from screaming to now uncontrollably laughing. I feel whole, like I was only a part of something my entire life in the first place. I place my hands on the stone, and with one little push, the front of the sarcophagus falls off and tumbles down the stairs. I rushed outside, gasping for air, feeling as though I was being suffocated. Lucas bowed before me, chanting, "Artemis, Artemis, Artemis." Then the others joined in. My body feels amazing. I feel rejuvenated, like I'm a new person. Lucas stands before me, and I can see my reflection in his eyes. My eyes are glowing that golden amber color again. My whole body appears to be glowing. Suddenly, I hear screaming and someone running through the woods, coming right towards us. Then Dakota appears, gasping and crying. She's trying to tell us something, but she can't get it out. Finally, when she calms down enough to catch her breath, she belts out, "Apollo got caught." Lucas asks, "By who? The police?" She answers, "No. We were on our way out of town. There were a bunch of angry townspeople waiting for us. The police were there too, and they put down spikes to stop us, and Apollo crashed the motorcycle. I was able to get away, and I ran and hid in the woods. But you know Apollo, how stubborn he is. He just had to confront them. He tried to take them out, and he managed to get a few before they shot him. Then they started to torture him, doing terrible things right there in the middle of the road. They were asking him where to find the rest of us. We have to go help him." I am enraged. So many thoughts are running through my mind, it's like a movie playing again and again. I think about the detective who accused me of having something to do with Kate's death, and that other cop who followed me, and how Tyler blamed me for everything that happened, and those cops who interrupted my meal, telling me to freeze. And that bastard at the gas station, touching me with his disgusting human skin. Maybe Kate didn't deserve to die. And even though I felt guilty before, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the cops, Tyler, and that dirty man, they all got exactly what they deserved. It was making me so furious. These humans think they are powerful. They think they can say and do whatever they want. The more I think about it, the more infuriated I become. I stared Dakota right in the eyes and declared, "We're going to get Apollo back and make them pay." Subscribe for a new story Mondays, Wednesdays, and don't forget Saturdays. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmare.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me.